Vidhya Srinivasan may be VP of Advertising and Commerce at Google, but in many ways, the IIT Madras alumnus is still a Chennai girl at heart. Over the weekend, the Google executive was back at her alma mater for a reunion where we got to catch up with her to chat up on AI, advertising, and the impact of AI agents on commerce. In that conversation, the Google VP from IIT told me that there's still a trust divide that needs to be bridged if AI agents were to be used in order to make a decision on behalf of the rest of us. Here's a slice of that conversation.
A lot of nostalgia, just so many memories. It feels like this is where I grew up. It's also we're also doing a reunion with my batch, so it's very special because it's not just me being here. It's also the same group of friends and people that I was with here. So very special to be back.
Absolutely, and I can imagine, and of course, a long time has passed since you were here, and you presently, are VP at Google Commerce and advertising in a sense. And what a time to be doing this conversation. There's been so much discourse surrounding AI agents, and the kind of impact they're having on multiple sectors. Just looking back, how much of this has changed? Because, from where you were back here at IIT to where you are today, and all the talk that's been doing the rounds in terms of how the world is changing and the technology around us is changing at perhaps at an equal pace. Looking back, did you ever imagine that we'd be talking about AI agents back where, back at the campus when perhaps not so much of it was being discussed earlier?
Well, I think you could ask me this question about would I have known this is the conversation we'll have in, say, 2019? I would have probably said no. So much has changed even since what happened with COVID. In terms of everything that's happening that's relevant to my time at IIT, I took my first artificial neural networks course here, and that was an optional course at that time. And I was just thinking about it as I entered the campus today, how much has evolved in that space and how it's changing everything that consumers are doing and businesses are doing. So very excited to be a technologist at this point in time.
Absolutely. So let's talk about AI with you. Everyone's talking about it. And I have to ask you, the discourse in recent times has been, about AI agents and how they're changing the world around us. In fact, more recently, that conversation has kind of pivoted towards having a series of agents really changing the way we use AI itself. How's that translating to some of the work that you at Google are doing in the consumer commerce and advertising space? Are there any game-changing AI use cases that you're seeing right now that's actually about to make a disruptive change to the way you do business?
Lots happening in this space. I would say agentic AI is certainly a common buzzword that everybody's talking about. I would say in general, just stepping back, we can think about agentic AI as deeply conversational experiences which have really taken off. We see this in many things, including the AI mode and Gemini app that we have. But also agents in terms of agents that can take action on behalf of the user, where of course the bar is a lot higher in terms of how well that has to be done. With respect to that, we are still early days, I think, in terms of both getting the experiences just right, but also in terms of bringing the user along for this journey, because there's a whole lot of trust that has to sort of change in terms of how people view these agents to act on their behalf. We are doing a lot in this space. In fact, I would say a couple of recent features that we've launched one is called Agentic Checkout, where a user is able to essentially go ahead and specify, say, a pair of pants that they want to buy, specify the exact color and size, and say, hey, I'm willing to buy it, but not at this price, but if it is, $20 cheaper. And then when that actually happens, an AI can be at large and say, hey, this has actually happened, you still want to buy it, and the user can click a button, it can happen. Right. So these are the sorts of things that we're thinking about agentic AI. More broadly speaking, we think in commercial journeys, we should really optimize for people doing all the fun parts of the journey. Like, I want to discover new places, I want to discover new products, but then take away the grunt work in these sorts of journeys. So sort of the final thing of purchase is a little bit like that. We also have an agent that can call nearby stores and see if an item I want is on stock. These sorts of things that just take up time, that don't add much to the user, we want agents to do.
Interesting. And I'm just curious. A lot of the role that AI agents could well play as far as commerce, e-commerce, and shopping is concerned, I would hazard a guess has already been rather well documented. But what does the future hold in terms of pushing the envelope of just how much you can get out of it. And even as we speak about AI agents itself, Satya Nadella was in India recently, and he spoke about, a series of agents doing things that, we would perhaps deem unimaginable just a few years ago. How is Google looking to leverage the potential that AI agents have to do better work in commerce and advertising?
I think this is really goes back to the art of the possible. Some of the examples I just gave you are just scratching the surface in terms of what we can do. Now, to sort of expand beyond sort of these sorts of individual use cases, we do think we need to build the infrastructure and the sort of fundamental protocols and the ability to scale these things across various products, geographies, and a lot of work is being worked on in those areas. For example, one of the core things that we have to do well when it comes to agentic commerce is get payments done really well. One of the underlying things that we have to get right with payments is, when agents are making a financial transaction, we have to have the same level of trust in these transactions. So we came out with the agentic payments protocol as an open source protocol that the ecosystem can use in sort of making sure agentic payments continue to be trusted, and we can sort of have all the controls that we have in place. So there are lots of building blocks that needs to be in place. This protocol is one example, as well as the things that we have to evolve in terms of user controls and transparency and things of that nature for the entire set of things where agents can talk to each other and all the magic to come forth. I would say at this point in time, it's really about getting the hero use cases right and building the ecosystem, building the infrastructure and sort of the fundamentals so that we are prepared to scale it.
Right. And speaking of scale itself, you spoke a little while ago about there being a bit of a trust problem when it comes to AI as far as folks, going about adopting it and making the best use of it. Where do you think the Indian demographic is at this point in time with regard to pivoting to better use cases and perhaps a full adoption? And I ask you this largely because in my conversations in the recent past, I hear that sectors like banking and BFSI, for instance, have been reticent to actually go full tilt towards AI, waiting for regulations to first perhaps catch up before deciding if they want to spend more on AI adoption itself. Do you feel the time is ripe when companies here might actually need to hit the gas and go all in, or do you think there could be some time more before that actually happens?
To your broader question about India, I would say India has been amazing for tech in general in terms of the population. Very much, the Indian consumer really leans into tech, and especially AI. They've really leaned into the product set here. And in fact, we're learning a lot from the behaviors of Indian consumers. And now I say, when you build for India, you're building for the world, just because we see behaviors that are, one, a lot of people are using it, and two, they actually use it in unique ways that we didn't envision when we were coming up with the product ourselves. So it's wonderful to launch products here and see the consumer reaction to it. On your question about businesses, should they be leaning in or not, I think every business should be very leaned in. And it is a fact that there are going to be different segments of users and different use case, different business areas or domains where adoption needs to move at different paces for very valid reasons, because there are sensitive segments. There are segments where you're trying to do bigger financial transactions where I think the bar for things to be just right is different. At the same time, because things are moving so fast, the only way a business stays ahead of this and sort of stays at the cutting edge is if they're in the game. And so this is the time to lean in, but then approach it from the point of view of let me learn and let me participate in this conversation about how do we build that trust together and what are the guardrails that we have to build. But that only comes from participation.
Absolutely. And before I end, I have to ask you, you're back here at IIT Madras, and over time, a lot of the discourse around the work that goes here has been so focused on deep tech. Everyone talks about it being a deep tech hub, and here we are talking about AI and perhaps the finer tech, in a sense, if I may be allowed to use that term. Do you feel Chennai, the IIT Madras ecosystem, and the South really has what it takes to actually make that pivot and not just focus on deep tech, which is no doubt a very key component of the manufacturing ecosystem that we find ourselves in right here, but to also focus equally, if not more, on AI and AI development in a sense, and really build some solid AI first startups in a sense out of the city? Do you think there is potential for that?
Absolutely. I think more than ever before, we see the building blocks that we have now with AI. One of the things that a lot gets talked about a lot is how much easier it is to do coding, because with AI being an assistant, how AI can actually now help through the product life cycle and ideating about the product, coming up with mocks and doing things. So if anything, this is the moment where really smart, motivated people can build products and build entire companies with a much smaller group of people, with leveraging the tech that we have. And I have high hopes for IIT Madras and Chennai to be at the center of all of this.